Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the latest episode of Doctor Who. It was called Wish World. And as it starts, an equestrian rider travels through the forest in 1885 Bavaria, dismounting outside a house where a man expresses his surprise. He had asked for a midwife, but thought one wasn't coming, but was happy to report that by luck his wife's birth had gone well. The rider removes her hood and reveals herself to be the Rani, who comments that he's always lucky, being the seventh son of a seventh son, before she walks inside to meet the man's own seventh son. She then tells the pair that she'll be taking the baby, and as the mother and father object, she tells them, "Your wife is violets," and at that moment the mother dissolves into flowers. The Rani then remarks that her ability isn't witchcraft, but a power older still, before she then turns his other sons into ducks and the father into an owl before leaving with the baby. Meanwhile, the Doctor and Belinda wake in bed together, delighted to start their day in 2025. The Doctor prepared to go to work to support the two of them and their daughter, Poppy, who wanders into the room. The television turns on, and Conrad, from a couple of episodes back, speaks to them, promising perfect weather across the world, wishing everyone a perfect morning. During breakfast, Conrad begins a story of Doctor Who and the Deadly Wish, discussing Time Lords from Gallifrey. The Doctor and Belinda tell Poppy about the plans they're making for the next day, May the 24th, May Day, prompting a mug on the table to fall to the floor and shatter. As the Doctor begins to leave, he's stopped at his door by a woman on his doorstep. It's Ruby. She asks if his name is the Doctor. He says his name is John Smith, and as Ruby protests, insisting that he's the Doctor, that he doesn't have a wife and daughter, he becomes offended. Ruby apologizes and introduces herself before leaving. Belinda, meanwhile, picks up the phone and reports that someone at their house was expressing doubt. As Ruby leaves, she bumps into Melanie Bush, who was taking out a dustpan full of broken mugs. The Doctor, again as John Smith, follows behind her and tells Melanie to avoid talking to her as Ruby hurries away. The Doctor and Melanie then look up and a bit into the distance to see some dinosaur-type creatures, but only skeletons, striding across the landscape, and the Doctor continues on his way to work. He arrives at work where things are overseen by Kate Lethbridge-Stewart, and some doubt flickers across his mind as he encourages a coworker to ask Kate to dinner, to marry her and save her from having to work, and even comments that he shouldn't have a problem getting her to agree to go on a date with him because he's a beautiful man, something that men really shouldn't say. And when this happens, his mug drops and cracks. As work continues, a woman flies by outside, of course it's the Rani, and everyone stops to watch. The Doctor expresses admiration for the Rani, saying that he wonders who she is, causing everyone to stare at him. He quickly retracts his words and says, "Oh, she is what she is, no explanation needed." Over the television, Conrad's story about the Doctor continues, and it turns out that Doctor Who wasn't the only Time Lord to survive the war that killed all the others. A Time Lady also survived. A Time Lady who was an old friend of the Doctor's, who knew a secret from the depths of Time Lord history that was beginning to wake. A secret that she would use, not trusting the Doctor, who sees she's as weak. Back at home, Belinda's mother and aunt come over, excited to prepare for the next day, making small talk about Poppy misbehaving and how that needs to be addressed. Conrad, over the TV, tells them that they need to be good girls, then good wives, then good mothers. As they start talking about Poppy's past, Belinda starts thinking, and a mug shatters. This doubt about the details of Poppy's past overwhelms her, and she runs out of the house into a nearby wooded area. Then, as she stands by a riverside, she shouts in frustration. Meanwhile, the Rani enters into a bone-like structure in the sky, meeting Mrs. Flood inside. Mrs. Flood tells her that things are going very well, that they're getting quite a lot of doubt. Mrs. Flood then takes a sandwich to Conrad, giving him a break from his reading. The two marvel at the baby, how he sustains the entire world using Conrad's wish and constant attention, never crying, only sometimes laughing, the laughter of the giggle, and the pair agree that he's terrifying. Ruby, meanwhile, meets a lady in a wheelchair in the streets, and the two notice one of the bone beasts stepping in the middle of the crowd but leaving no impact, as if it's not real, just like everything else. Ruby turns to leave, but asks if the lady's name is Shirley and somehow gets it right. Shirley takes her to an encampment full of those with disabilities, all of whom express that they can't remember something else, just out of reach. None of their lives quite make sense. Shirley has a state-of-the-art wheelchair, but no money. One of them floats a theory to Ruby that it all comes down to Conrad. Because he doesn't see disabled people, doesn't treat them as real, it's as if they're not real to the rest of the world. They fall through the cracks in the reality he's created. Shirley and Ruby decide to do some recognizance on the bone structure that coming night. As the doctor sits at night thinking, the television plays a message from Rogue, his sort of love interest from last season, calling out to the doctor saying that he only has time for a quick message, which is that tables don't do that, and that he loves him. Belinda awakes to hear mugs crashing, walking out to see the doctor experimenting with the table, and seeing mug after mug crash through it. The doctor insists that this isn't what tables do, as the man on TV told him. Tearfully, Belinda calls the police, concerned for her husband having doubts. He's taken away, and then Belinda is taken as well. They're both taken to the bone structure where the Ronnie confronts the doctor, showing him various things in an attempt to jog his memory, saying that they're old acquaintances. Belinda is in a state of disbelief, insisting that they have a daughter and that they just want to go home, a statement that the Ronnie dismisses as false. The Ronnie begs the doctor to remember, insisting that they were never truly enemies, as she wanted life, not death, introducing herself to him as the Ronnie, as does Mrs. Flood. The Ronnie then takes the doctor to see Conrad and the baby, showing him the most powerful god in all the pantheon, Desiderum, the god of wishes. The Ronnie then shows the doctor the Vindicator, used at first for the doctor and Belinda to return to Earth, but the web of energy it created will amplify the power of Desiderum, allowing for the creation of the entire world. It's still not enough, though, as doubts seep through. But as doubts would crack this world, the doubt of a Time Lord fractures reality. So the Ronnie drags the doctor out into a balcony to show him the world outside, a world fractured and tearing itself apart, buildings sinking into cracks. She tells him that using fractured reality, she'll find someone in the Underverse, Omega, a great intergalactic engineer and one of the founders of Time Lord Society, until centuries of loneliness and isolation bent his mind so that he threatened the entire universe. He was the only person ever to live within the antimatter universe, which he subsequently ruled over while he used his will to enable himself to construct a landscape with the permission of the antimatter creature, where his existence robbed him of his body and left only his conscious will intact, twisting him into a murderous insanity aimed towards the Time Lords, who he blamed for abandoning him to his fate. As the name echoes through his mind, the doctor remembers who he is, finding himself locked outside, watching as buildings collapse all over the city. Belinda is evicted from the structure, and she vanishes. The Ronnie and Mrs. Flood give a toast to their success as they collapse the balcony outside, sending the doctor spiraling below. As he careens downward, he shouts to her that Poppy is real, that he really does have a daughter, before the clock strikes midnight, and that's where the episode ended. So I like this episode. It had a mystery to it in that, how did things get like this, where this world is, not real and nobody knows who they actually are, except for a couple of people, and where everyone is conditioned to be petrified of doubt, and where giant dinosaur skeletons walk around. So I like that aspect of it, and I liked, as the story unfolded, we had to see the doctor slowly come to realize that his reality that he was living in wasn't real. So I always like those kinds of episodes. I also really liked his wardrobe in this episode. I thought he looked very dapper, so I thought that was cool. I really liked seeing Ruby again. She's excellent, and I'm glad they used her in this episode in a better way than they used her a couple episodes back when she had the story with Conrad. I liked the other cameos we got, and I really like the Ronnie. I think she's a badass character and a really good villain, so I like that. I like the concept of the baby being a god. Though I didn't understand some of the concepts that came out in the story, like who created the world? Was it a wish by Conrad, apparently, but I didn't understand that. And how were, the Ronnie and Mrs. Flood not susceptible to it? Or for that matter, Ruby. And I guess the reason they wanted that world to come apart was so that they could get to the underworld, the Underverse, to free this powerful entity, which I guess has a history in Doctor Who. I don't see why they had to have a whole fake world in order to get people to express doubt, because it seems strange to me that you would create a situation where you then have to generate doubt in order for your end goal to come about? Because what if you can't generate enough doubt? What if things don't come together in a way that, doubt occurs, or if it takes a really long time? Because they didn't seem to be actively trying to encourage doubt. And in fact, the society in this wish world, as it were, actively discouraged doubt to a fault. And Mrs. Flood played a part in that. So that kind of didn't make sense to me. But overall, it was a good episode. It was eerie, it was creepy, it was mysterious, and it really put you in a mindset of where you're thinking, oh, come on, doctor, remember who you are. Come on, doctor, remember who you are. And, I just thought that was cool. We still don't know where the TARDIS is. We don't know what happened to the TARDIS. We don't know how the Doctor and Belinda survived the explosion. And we still don't quite know what happened to Earth on May 24th. So I'm hoping that in the season finale, we get answers to those things. So I'm looking forward to that possibly happening. I'm looking forward to seeing this Omega character. That will be interesting. And I want to see more of Ruby and more of the Ronnie. So hopefully we get all of that in the season finale a week from now. But that's really all I have to say. So I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.